Your mind doesn't follow you, you know that. It's the one in charge, the one shouting, dragging you along, and you act like a puppet, like its servant. How many times have you done the exact opposite of what you knew was right? That's no coincidence. You've surrendered control, but that ends today. Today you're going to learn how to dominate your mind, how to force it to bow to you, because either you master it, or it ends up destroying you. This isn't just another episode, it's a training session, a mental battlefield. Here, you'll receive the 12 Stoic teachings you need to silence that inner voice that sabotages your progress, slows your growth, and plants doubt. No pretty speeches. This is war. An internal war. And if you don't win it, your mind will. The Stoics were crystal clear. The mind is like a wild beast. If you don't train it, it devours you. Are you ready to take back control, strengthen your inner self, and become the true master of your thoughts? Then let's begin. There's no time to waste. But before we dive in, let me share with you the powerful story of Alma. Because what she went through won't just touch your soul. It may completely change the way you listen to your inner voice. Alma's hands didn't tremble. It was her thoughts that shook. At first glance, she looked like any other woman, walking quickly, doing her shopping, replying to emails, smiling at the neighbors. But inside, every day was a real battle. It wasn't anxiety like the kind described in psychology textbooks. It was something subtler, more constant, a permanent voice in her mind telling her how she should behave, what she was doing wrong, and everything she wasn't good enough at. Are you really going out in that outfit? Buying useless stuff again? Look at yourself in the mirror. No one's going to take you seriously. Another day you didn't accomplish anything meaningful. Every day, as soon as she opened her eyes, one phrase shook her even more than a cup of coffee. Come on, you're already running late again. And from there, it was all judgment. She criticized herself for what she ate, what she said, for not doing enough, for doing too much, for not being further along in life. It was like having a neurotic personal trainer yelling in her head. Not like that. That's wrong too. See? You're doing it wrong again. The real problem was that Alma had gotten used to that voice. She believed everyone's mind worked the same way. Until one day, without planning it, something tiny and seemingly insignificant happened, and it changed everything. It was at the supermarket, just another Tuesday afternoon. Alma was pushing a half-full cart of things she didn't really need, tossed in out of pure anxiety. While waiting in line, she replayed a work meeting in her head. It hadn't been anything serious, but she'd stumbled while explaining an idea and had spent several minutes mentally repeating, "You sounded like an idiot." This always happens to you. No one takes you seriously. You're going to miss out on opportunities. Why do you even speak if you always end up sounding useless? Without realizing it, she began whispering these thoughts aloud, and then said one out loud, "I'm a mess." The woman behind her heard it. She was older, maybe around 60, with her hair up, a huge scarf and a calm gaze that clashed with the chaos of the aisle. She looked at Alma gently, and without being intrusive, said slowly, "What you just said, would you say that to someone you love?" Alma turned with a tense smile, trying to brush it off. She didn't know whether to laugh or apologize, but the woman wasn't looking to start a conversation. She simply added, "Marcus Aurelius once said, 'Your soul becomes dyed with the color of your thoughts. Guard how you speak to yourself.'" And that was it. She said nothing more. She moved forward with her cart and disappeared into the aisles. Alma paid, left the supermarket, got into her car, and that phrase echoed in her head like an unshakable thought. It had never occurred to her that the critical voice that had always accompanied her, the one she thought was useful for self-improvement, could actually be hurting her more than anyone else in her life. That night, she didn't do anything extraordinary. She didn't journal, meditate, or go for a sunset walk. She just stayed quiet. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't let that voice have the final word. When she caught herself thinking, "You didn't do anything valuable today," she forced herself to respond, "I breathed today and that was enough." The voice didn't vanish. Of course not. But it no longer held the reins. Because Alma, almost without realizing it, had remembered something many forget. If you don't correct your mind, it can become your greatest enemy. But if you train it, it can become your best ally. Sound familiar? If you too are tired of your mind being the one punishing you, this training is for you. Today you'll learn 12 Stoic lessons that, just like for Alma, will help you reclaim control. Let's begin. And friend, if this content is bringing you value, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member to access unique benefits. And tell us in the comments, in what part of your life do you feel your mind has been taking over too much? In what area do you feel you've lost command, or simply write, I am Stoic. Starting today, I begin to reclaim my power. Lesson 1. Not everything deserves your attention. Tell me something, my friend. How many times have you spent hours overthinking something that, honestly, didn't even deserve a couple of minutes of your time? How many times has a random word, an indifferent gesture, or an insignificant comment settled in your mind as if it had the right to live there? Your mind can't always be switched on, like a flashlight without an off button. If you don't consciously choose what to let in, it will become overloaded. And when your attention gets scattered, your inner peace dissolves with it. Your attention works like those old cell phone batteries. If you have 20 apps running in the background, how long do you think the charge will last? Well, the same happens with your mind. If everything matters to you, you burn out. And the worst part is that exhaustion doesn't show up immediately, but later you feel drained without knowing why. You get irritated by anything. It becomes hard to think clearly. Why? Because you've given your energy to things that didn't deserve it. Let me tell you something that happened to me recently. I was in a work meeting, and while presenting a proposal for a project, one of my co-workers, one of those who always speaks with a tone between mockery and poison, interrupted me and said, "Well, let's see if this time it actually gets finished." Some people chuckled quietly. I pretended it was nothing. I kept talking as if it had just slipped by, but inside, my head exploded. I left that room and couldn't stop thinking about what he said. I repeated it in my mind at least 5 times while walking down the hallway. I imagined clever comebacks I could have said, how I could have made him look ridiculous, what would have happened if I'd reacted. And that wasn't even the worst part. I carried it with me the whole day. I got home in a bad mood. People talked to me, and I answered with one-word replies. I made dinner without even registering what I was doing. Physically, I was there. Mentally, I was still looping around that 5-second phrase. I went to bed and still felt my chest tight with anger. The most ironic part? That guy probably didn't think about me for even 2 minutes after saying it. And me? I spent the rest of my day being a slave to words that didn't even deserve attention. That's when I realized something important. The problem wasn't what he said. The real problem was that I gave him everything. My focus, my mood, my afternoon, and the worst part, I did it without even noticing. And in the middle of that reflection, I thought, can you imagine Marcus Aurelius walking through the palace halls, rehearsing sarcastic comebacks to shut up the senators? I highly doubt it. I imagine him instead writing in his journal something like, "Today I practiced not getting hooked on the noise." That's exactly what the Stoics did, training themselves every day to discern what was worth investing energy in and what wasn't. Epictetus said it with absolute clarity. There are things within our control and things outside of it. And something that few mention is that your attention is within your control. Where you direct your focus also goes your energy, your mood, your clarity. Surely it has happened to you too. You're driving, and suddenly that awkward conversation from a few days ago pops into your head, and it bothers you more now than it did at the time. And while you're reliving all of that over and over, you're missing the scenery, the music, the silence, exactly what you need to regain your center. So the next time your mind wants to dive headfirst into the first drama that crosses its path, take a deep breath and try this. First, place a filter in your head. Before getting emotionally hooked on something, Literally ask yourself this question: will this matter to me 3 days from now? If the answer is no, let it go. This isn't about running away from reality. It's about learning not to blow everything out of proportion. Next, activate a mental energy-saving mode. Just like you silence notifications on your phone, do the same with certain topics or people. It's not about ignoring, it's about learning to manage what you feel. If you already know that every time you go on social media you end up comparing yourself, give your mind a break. And finally, keep a personal list of things that truly deserve your attention so you can come back to them whenever you notice your mind drifting. Read something inspiring, call someone who loves you, move your body a bit, cook slowly, breathe deeply. Things that bring you back to the present instead of draining you. Your mind won't learn to obey you if you keep letting it chase after everything that sparkles. Teach it to discern, because those who train to protect their attention begin to reclaim their power. And if you don't master it, my friend, everything around you will. Believe me, when that happens, your mind stops belonging to you. Lesson 2. Stop talking to yourself like you're your own worst enemy. Picture this scene. It's Sunday and you wake up with the intention of making the most of your day. In your head, you've already structured everything. Get some exercise, tidy up the house, get ahead on work, eat healthy, read that half-finished book, maybe even call that friend you've been putting off for weeks. But the morning slips away before you realize it. You look at your phone more than you should, get distracted by anything, wander around the house like you're searching for something invisible, eat the first thing you find, and suddenly it's 3 p.m., and you're already convinced you've ruined the day. And then comes the beating, a mental beating. You're lazy, see? You always do the same thing. You don't deserve success. You can't even stick to your plans for one day. Look at everyone else making the most of their Sunday, growing, making progress. And you, like an idiot, lying on the couch. But it doesn't stop there. You get up, go to the kitchen, see the mountain of dirty dishes, and blurt out, "You're such a mess." You look in the mirror while washing your face, and that voice comes back without asking permission. "You look awful. Like this. How do you expect to succeed? You're never going to get anywhere like this." And the most heartbreaking part of all this is that if someone else talked to you that way, you'd cut them out of your life without hesitation. But because that voice comes from you, you swallow it, you accept it, and the next day you repeat it again, and the day after that too. And then you ask yourself, why can't I control my mind? Why is it that just when I need to lift myself up, I'm the one pushing myself down? Because, my friend, you've trained your mind to do exactly that. You've taught it to treat you like the enemy, and it's simply following your lead. Many believe the only way to master the mind is by yelling at it, insulting it, demanding it behave with toughness. But the truth is quite the opposite. A mind that feels attacked, judged, exhausted, won't respond with clarity. It responds with confusion. And that mental noise traps you, drags you down, and you end up obeying the worst script possible, the one you wrote yourself. Seneca put it very clearly. He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than necessary. And when do you start suffering before you even need to? When you make one small mistake and instantly label yourself as useless. When you don't even give yourself a chance to try again. A true Stoic doesn't wound themselves with their words. They don't insult themselves. They correct without contempt. They learn, take note, and move on without carrying a pile of stones on their back. And if you think changing your inner dialogue is too complicated, listen to this. Ethan Kross, a psychologist at the University of Michigan and author of the book Chatter, discovered something fascinating. When you talk to yourself using your own name, it reduces the emotional weight of what you're going through. Instead of saying, "I'm a disaster," and you say, "Luis, you've gotten through tougher things before." And suddenly it's like you step out of the drama and activate your inner coach. It's not magic, it's mental direction, it's focus. So what can you do when your mind starts treating you like a rival? One powerful strategy is to give that critical voice a name. Call it whatever you want: the judge, the inner witch, the mental ogre, the saboteur. Naming it takes away its power. It separates it from your identity. Then change the tone you use with yourself. Instead of saying, "I ruined it," say, "This is part of the process." Sure, it might feel weird or forced at first, but your mind adapts. It learns from the language you use with it. And if you notice that mental loop pulling you in and you can't seem to escape it, do something physical. Move. Stand up. Leave the room. Stretch. Let your body release what your mind doesn't know how to let go of. Sometimes physical movement is the key to freeing what's pressing on us from the inside. Deep down, if you want your mind to respect you, you first have to teach it how. You can't build a strong mind if you're living under the weight of your own inner humiliation. Start today by transforming the way you speak to yourself. Because the more you become your own ally, the less power that voice will have, the one that used to destroy you. Now tell me, what's that phrase you repeat to yourself most when you feel like you failed? Write it in the comments like you're finally letting it go, like you're taking a weight off your chest. Because most of the time, what needs to change isn't what you do, but how you talk to yourself when things don't go as planned. Lesson 3. Trade drama for decisions. Has it ever happened to you that your mind starts creating a tragedy when absolutely nothing has happened yet? It's like you have a film director in your brain, shooting a disaster scene with dramatic music and slow motion, without even having a script in hand. Think about it. A friend takes a while to reply to your message, and your mind immediately starts spinning. You convince yourself they're mad at you, that you said something wrong, that they're ignoring you. You even go back and reread the entire conversation, looking for what you did wrong. Your mind already wrote an entire novel, and you don't even know if the other person has read the message yet. And the worst part? Nothing has actually happened. That's how the mind operates when it's used to drama. It turns a simple pause into a farewell, a silence into abandonment, a doubt into a condemnation. And when that voice takes control, you just follow the script. You obey. Now imagine this other scenario. You get fired out of the blue. No warning, no clear reason. Just a brief meeting, averted eyes, and a curt, "Thanks for everything." You're left standing still, letter in hand, stomach in knots. You walk outside, and everything feels dimmer. You get home, collapse on the couch, and the silence fills with thoughts. This isn't fair. This always happens to me. I gave it my all and they still let me go. What more does life want from me? And you could stay stuck like that for hours, even days. Because when it hurts, logic isn't the first thing that shows up, emotion is. But listen closely, my friend, if you want your mind to respect you, you have to teach it to stand up before the drama takes over. That's the trap. Drama gives you the false impression that you're doing something, that you're facing the situation, when in reality, you're just spinning in circles. What truly transforms your mind isn't getting trapped in the story you're telling yourself. It's turning that story into direction, into concrete actions, into firm decisions. Picture this. A pilot is mid-flight when one of the engines starts to fail. What does he do? Does he start shouting, "Why me? Why today, after everything I've been through?" Of course not. He knows there's no time to panic. He activates the protocols, checks the controls, contacts the tower, analyzes alternative routes. Every second matters. If he lets panic take over, he crashes. What keeps him in the air isn't drama, it's decision. And your life is no different. When something falls apart, what you do in those first moments determines the direction you take. You can stay stuck in what went wrong, or you can ask yourself what you're going to do now. That's where Stoicism comes in. Marcus Aurelius summed it up in a sentence we should tattoo on our minds. Don't get lost in what you can't control. Focus on what you can. And it makes total sense. Think about it calmly. Can you control the fact that you got fired? No. Can you control that they chose someone else instead of you? Also no. Can you avoid the pain that comes with that moment? Difficult. But what you can control is what you do today. You can decide whether you'll keep replaying the drama or take one small step in a new direction. So the next time your mind starts dramatizing everything like it's the last episode of a tragic series, change the script. Try this. First, identify the exact moment when you're caught in the why me mindset. And answer yourself clearly. That already happened. What can I do now with what I have? If necessary, write it down. Saying it out loud helps too. Your brain needs to hear you break the loop. Next, choose one small action you can take today. You don't need to completely overhaul your life, just move forward. Update your resume. Call someone who can give you advice. Take a walk while thinking through your options. A moving body brings the mind back to the present. Finally, every time your mind wants to go back to the drama, as if it were an addiction, remind yourself of this phrase from Marcus Aurelius, like an anchor. Life doesn't take things from you, it frees you. It's not just a pretty phrase. It's a reminder that even though something broke, your hands are now free to build something new. Act from that place. Because the difference between a mind that drags you down and a mind that obeys you doesn't lie in avoiding the hits, but in what you choose to do right after you take one. When you turn every fall into a decision, your mind stops controlling you and starts following your lead. Lesson 4. Don't argue just to be right. Come on, be honest with yourself. How many times have you found yourself stuck thinking about a conversation that ended hours ago? Not because it was particularly meaningful, but because you felt like you didn't say what you really wanted to say, or the other person got the last word, or deep down, you just didn't feel understood. And there you are, lying in bed, replaying the scene like you're scripting the perfect movie, except it's all in your head. That's how a 5-minute chat turns into an endless loop of thoughts that ruins your day. And no, it's not really about the topic, it's about that need to be right, the desire to win an argument that no longer even exists. Ryan Holiday, author of Ego is the Enemy, understood this. After years of getting into fights over anything, he realized that most of the time, it wasn't about the actual issue, it was about that urge to always have the last word. He said that one of the most important changes in his life was learning to let go of that impulse. From then on, instead of thinking, I'm right, he started asking himself, do I want to be right or do I want to be at peace? And from that point on, many conversations stopped being battles and became bridges. Because when you choose calm over pride, the one making decisions is no longer your ego, it's your mind. And this time, it's on your side. And in case you're wondering, yes, the Stoics understood this more than 2,000 years ago. If you're already struggling to avoid getting pulled into every argument, just imagine Seneca obsessing over a relationship fight. Unthinkable. He wouldn't allow his mind to decide for him. And if he ever had a disagreement with his partner, it probably went something like this. She says, "You never pay attention to me." And he calmly replies, "You're right." Then, without raising his voice, he walks out to the balcony, writes in his journal, "Today I defeated my ego with a gesture of affection," and makes himself some herbal tea. Because as he once wrote, it's better to win with silence than with words. Not because he gave up, but because he knew that a disciplined mind isn't driven by pride. It focuses on what really matters: peace. Let's bring it down to everyday life. You're at home trying to enjoy a quiet moment. The phone rings. It's your mother. She asks how everything's going and out of nowhere drops the usual comment. "Why don't you look for something more stable? You're always changing your mind. You really need to grow up already." You take a breath. You think about letting it go. But inside, your ego starts heating up. Who is she to say that? "I'm so tired of not being understood." And eventually you blurt out the phrase that lights the fuse. You don't understand anything, and just like that, it happens again. Tension, frustration, cold silence. Another battle you didn't want to fight, but your mind had already geared up for. For what, really? Were you actually trying to resolve anything? Or did you just want to satisfy that little bit of pride that needs to feel superior? even if just for a second. That's the point. If you don't learn to let go of the need to always be right, your mind becomes a permanent battleground, and then you wonder why it's so hard to find peace. So what can you do? First, step away physically from the situation if you feel like you're about to say something unhelpful. Leave the room. Change the environment. Don't let your mouth move faster than your inner balance. Second, use a phrase that neutralizes the conflict, like, "Let's talk later when we're both calmer." That's not running away, it's preventing a fire. Third, if you're already in the middle of the conversation, be the one to end it with dignity, saying, "I see your point," and isn't surrendering. It's choosing not to turn every disagreement into a war. Mastering your mind doesn't always mean raising your voice. Sometimes it means knowing when to be silent, because a mind that respects itself doesn't need to be right all the time. It needs direction. And when you learn to choose your battles, your mind stops dragging you and starts walking alongside you. Now tell us in the comments, do you have any tricks for walking away from an argument in time? Any phrase, habit, or technique that's helped you? Share it, because maybe someone else needs it. Maybe today, thanks to you, another mind starts to find peace too. Lesson 5. Every problem is your mental gym. Picture this. You're in an obstacle course race. The path is filled with hurdles, muddy puddles, ropes, walls, and stretches of sludge. You're there, your laces tied tight, heart pounding. First obstacle, a wet, slippery rope you have to climb while everyone's watching. Second, a pit of mud you must dive into without hesitation. Third, a wall so high you don't even know where to start climbing. And just like that, one after another. There's no time to complain or ask why the course is so tough. All you can do is take a deep breath, adjust your pace, and keep going. You know what that represents? An ordinary day in your life. Because yes, my friend, every day brings its own challenges, and they're not there to annoy you. They're there to shape you. Every uncomfortable situation is like that slippery rope. Every person who tests your patience is that high wall. Every circumstance beyond your control is that mud pit forcing you to get dirty and push forward. And here's where many go wrong. They want a strong mind, but avoid the mud. They crave peace, but reject anything that disturbs their calm. But that's not how it works. If you truly want your mind to learn to follow you, the first step is to stop fighting life. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than anyone. He wrote it with absolute clarity. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. What stands in the way becomes the way. And he didn't write that from the comfort of a desk. He wrote it during a military campaign, making decisions that affected lives in the middle of chaos and uncertainty. He didn't expect life to be easy. He grew stronger with each challenge, and you can too. Sometimes the obstacle isn't something epic or heroic. Sometimes it's so ordinary you don't even see it coming. Picture this scenario. You finally arrive at a family lunch after a draining week. You just want to sit down, relax, enjoy your meal without talking about work or heavy topics. But just as you're serving yourself, someone calls from the kitchen. "Can you watch the baby for a bit? We're eating." You think, well, it's just for a moment. But that moment drags on. The baby cries, squirms, screams. And you, who aren't exactly a fan of kids, do everything you can to stay calm. Finally, after you manage to get the baby to sleep in another room, you think you'll finally get to relax. You approach the table, and here comes the next challenge. Do you mind washing the earlier dishes? Just to get ahead a little. The sink is overflowing, the water is freezing, and the kitchen opens onto a patio, where a cold breeze is blowing right onto your hands. Meanwhile, the rest of the family is laughing and chatting comfortably in the living room. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, your brother-in-law shows up with a mocking grin. "Hey, how much do you charge per hour? Because you're really earning your paycheck today." At that point, all you want to do is smash a plate and let him have it. But then you pause and you think, what would Epictetus say if I told him about this scene? He'd probably look at you seriously and say, "You've been called to training. Why are you complaining?" And with calm humor, he might add, "And don't forget to stay hydrated." Even patience needs practice. So how can you start training your mind without waiting for everything to be in order? First, change the way you label what's happening to you. Instead of saying, "What a pain," try thinking, "This is my patience practice." It may sound like wordplay, but your mind rewires itself through language. Next, change your automatic reaction. If someone sets you off, take a deep breath and listen as if you were observing your own reaction. You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. And finally, when the day ends, write down what your mental exercise was that day. It doesn't matter if it was tolerating the neighbor blasting reggaeton at 8 a.m. If you didn't explode, that counts. That's progress. Because here's the truth, you don't train your mind in the pleasant moments. You strengthen it in the uncomfortable ones. The difference between a fragile mind that cracks easily and a disciplined mind that acts with clarity lies in what you choose to do when everything seems to go against you. And every single day, my friend, gives you the chance to complete one more rep. Lesson 6. Silence makes you stronger. Tell me something, my friend. How many times have you longed for peace while continuing to fill yourself with noise from every direction? You're exhausted, I know. You feel like you can't take it anymore, like it's hard to breathe. But instead of pausing and calming yourself, what do? You turn up the volume on the world. More videos, more notifications, more distractions. It's like you're trying to quiet your mind by shouting over it. And then you wonder why it doesn't listen. How do you expect it to if you never leave it alone with yourself? The truth is, we're surrounded by constant noise. And not just the kind that comes from outside. Also, the kind we create inside. We live trapped in the need for stimulation, as if silence were a threat. But the real danger isn't in what you hear, it's in what you avoid hearing. Because it's in that interference-free moment where what you truly think comes to light, what you actually feel, what still hurts, and what you've been avoiding for too long. And yes, that's what we fear. It's probably happened to you. You've just had dinner. You have 5 minutes free to sit on the couch, look out the window, breathe, feel your body. But you don't. Your finger goes straight to your phone. TikTok, Instagram, anything. As if part of you couldn't stand to be alone with yourself in silence. And then you wonder why it's so hard to make decisions, why you doubt everything, why you live putting out fires without even knowing what started them. Maybe it's because you're not listening to yourself. Because you're not giving yourself space, and without space, the mind doesn't settle. It overflows. Let me tell you what a friend of mine did. She was going through a difficult divorce, one of those that breaks you inside and leaves you exposed on the outside. She told me she couldn't stand silence, that she always needed something on. Music, TV, people. But one day, completely worn out, she decided to try something different. She woke up 10 minutes earlier, turned everything off, poured herself a coffee, and sat in front of the window. No talking, no doing, just being there for 5 minutes a day. At first it felt uncomfortable, but after a week she told me, "That moment changed me more than any productivity tip. For the first time, I wasn't running from myself." And that, even though it seems small, is an act of mental mastery. Because instead of being dragged by her mind, she sat it down beside her and said, "Now hush, listen to me." And if you think this is some modern trend, listen up. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, didn't write his meditations for you or me to read. He wrote them for himself. It was his way of bringing order to the noise around him, of finding clarity in the midst of chaos. As if every day he told his mind, "I'm in charge here, I need to hear you, not be shouted at." Because he knew, without silence there's no direction, only confusion disguised as insight. So if you also feel like your mind is running wild and you're just chasing behind it, try this. Create your own screen-free corner. It could be a chair at home, a quiet corner of the park, a bench on the street. Make that place your space for silence. No goals, no rules, just you with yourself. Another helpful exercise. During your daily commute, don't play anything. No Spotify, no podcast, not even that new video from your favorite creator. Save it for later. So what do you do instead? If you're on a bus, sit by the window. Observe without judging. Look at people's faces without making up stories. Notice the colors of the cars, the shapes of the clouds, the leaves moving in the wind. Count how many people are wearing headphones. Listen to the real sounds. The engine, a passing conversation, the gentle brake at a stop. And in the meantime, breathe. Just that. Let your mind float, without forcing it to think of anything. Like when you were a child and just watched the world go by, without needing to get anywhere. And if you can't avoid external noise, at least reduce the internal. Washing dishes? Just wash. Showering? Just shower. Don't use every moment to anticipate what's next. Because if you can't even find silence while scrubbing a plate, how do you expect your mind to be there for you when the world truly falls apart? Here's the truth. A mind that can't stand silence will always need noise to escape. But a mind that feels comfortable in stillness is a mind that no longer dominates you. It's a mind that obeys, that stops ruling from chaos and starts sitting with you in calm. And believe me, my friend, that is the greatest strength you can develop. Lesson 7. Your environment is influencing you more than you think. Let me tell you a story. They say that in a small village hidden among the mountains lived a trained hawk. It was fast, precise, strong. It had been raised with discipline and focus. It flew every morning and returned at nightfall. Its mind was disciplined, its body agile. It knew what it had to do, and it did it. But one day a storm threw it off course. It ended up in an unfamiliar valley, one with no hawks, only crows. These crows didn't wake up early to fly, didn't train, didn't hunt skillfully. They fed on scraps, cawed endlessly, and mocked the wind. At first, the hawk resisted their influence. It kept flying alone, hunting as it always had. But little by little, it started delaying its flights. It no longer launched into the sky at dawn, because the crows were still asleep. It began eating what they ate, resting where they rested, imitating how they acted. Until one morning, without even realizing it didn't fly. Not because it couldn't, but because its mind was no longer the same. It had stopped being a hawk and had become just another crow. And friend, this isn't just about birds, this is about you. That moment when you begin abandoning your routines because your group doesn't share them. When you catch yourself complaining just because everyone around you does. When you delay decisions because others are also afraid to take action. It doesn't matter how strong you believe your mind is, it adapts to its environment. And if that environment is chaotic, negative, or noisy, your mind will end up the same. Epictetus understood this perfectly. Avoid those who do not elevate your soul, for without realizing it, you'll descend to their level. And he was right. Mastering your mind doesn't just depend on willpower. It also depends on who you listen to, who you spend time with, what kind of messages you consume every day. If lately you've been feeling unmotivated, stuck, or lacking the strength to act, pause for a moment. Reflect. Picture this. It's Saturday. You promised yourself you'd wake up early, go for a walk, make progress on that book you left halfway through, or finally record that content you've been putting off. But then, your phone buzzes. Time for beers and laughs. You coming, or are you doing the spiritual thing again? You laugh it off. But something inside you sinks. Because you know that if you go, you'll end up doing the same old thing. Same conversations, staying up late, eating poorly, and waking up drained. And still, you go. Why? Because your environment pulls harder than your decisions. Because you're still not the one guiding your mind. You're still following other people's noise, but be careful. This isn't about isolating yourself from the world. It's about gaining clarity. Here's something helpful you can try. Analyze your last 3 interactions of the day, literally. At the end of the day, ask yourself, after talking to this person, did I feel lighter or heavier? You can mark it with a bright lightning bolt if you felt good, motivated, at peace. Or with a dim one if you left feeling drained, frustrated, or scattered. Within a few days, you'll have a clear map of who nourishes you and who drains you. And don't forget, your energy also needs managing. If someone consistently lowers your sense of calm when they talk to you, you can set boundaries, not from confrontation, but from your center. Something as simple as, "I appreciate what you're saying, but right now I'm not in the space for that." Or just stepping back a bit and coming back when you feel more balanced. That's not selfishness, it's awareness. It's intentionally choosing who gets to feed your mind and who doesn't. Because in the end, your mind will only be able to follow you if you decide what voices to allow around you. Just like the hawk who never lost its wings, it simply kept them still for too long. Don't let the same happen to you. The next time you notice your environment shaping your thoughts, your emotions, or your choices, remember that you are the hawk, and that flight always begins within you. Now tell me, have you noticed people who affect the way you think, who dim your motivation, your clarity, or your peace? Write it down, because that might be your first step toward regaining control from within. Lesson 8. What upsets you today will make you laugh tomorrow. Come on, friend, give it a try. Practice your laugh. Ha, ha, ha. Even if it sounds forced, even if it's more of a grunt than a giggle. Now think about the last time something pushed your buttons. Maybe it was not finding your favorite shirt right before heading out, or getting onions on your sandwich even though you asked for none, or someone taking 5 seconds longer than usual to reply to your message. Remember it? Chances are you do. Now tell me, does it still seem serious or a little ridiculous? If you still can't laugh about it, then, my friend, we've got unfinished business. It means your mind still holds more control than it should. And as long as that's the case, it'll be your mind deciding your mood, your emotions, even your choices. Want to meet someone who learned to laugh at his most embarrassing mistakes? Louis Raymond Taylor, a man who went from being a criminal to becoming a world-renowned motivational speaker. And he didn't do it from a victim mindset. No, he turned his story into a dark comedy that now inspires thousands. In the podcast Turning Adversity into Advantage, he shares his stories not with shame, but with irony. He once told how, while fleeing from the police, he ended up hiding inside a garbage container. "There I was," he said, "surrounded by banana peels with a pizza box stuck to my shoulder, thinking, 'Luis, you're really crushing it in life, huh?'" The audience burst into laughter, and that moment changed everything for him. Because instead of feeling guilt or shame, he felt relief. He realized that by transforming his story, he was also lightening the mental weight he carried. He was reclaiming the power he had handed over for years, to fear, to anger, to his past. As he later said, "At the time it was awful, but if I can't laugh about it now, then what did I learn?" Since then, every talk he gives includes at least one painful memory turned into a comic scene. Not to make light of it, but to show that pain no longer owns it. He's the one holding the pen now. Because if you can laugh at something that once broke you, then it no longer controls you. And that, far from being a weakness, is one of the bravest ways to master your mind. Stoicism teaches the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Each person's life is in the present, not in the past or the future." But what he didn't say, and what maybe you need to hear today, is that even the present can shrink. That what feels urgent and catastrophic right now will be just another story someday, if you even remember it. Time gives perspective, but if you train your mind, you can beat time to it. You can gain that clarity before the days pass. Hasn't it happened to you before? Picture this, you go to the hairdresser, you ask for just a little trim, and you walk out looking like you survived a scissor battle. Panic. You check the rearview mirror, the shop windows, heck, even the microwave reflection if needed. Your mind jumps straight to memes, jokes, criticism. But a week goes by, your hair grows, no one remembers, neither do you. So, what was the problem? It wasn't the haircut, it was your mind exaggerating. So next time something gets under your skin, try this. Ask yourself, will this matter to me a week from now? If the answer is no, take a deep breath and pause. That pause is your freedom. Then have an emergency phrase ready. Something like, "I'm switching to lighten up mode." It's a signal to yourself. A way to remind yourself that not everything deserves your energy, and that some battles are won simply by not showing up. Here's a small challenge. Train your laugh. I'm not asking you to burst out laughing at everything. But when you notice your mind starting to create a dramatic movie, find the funny angle. You know how some psychologists do it and they say, give that thought a cartoon voice. A "nobody loves me" said in a squeaky squirrel voice loses its grip, and you, almost without realizing it, take the reins back. Because a mind that can laugh at itself isn't a mind that denies reality. It's a mind that decides how it wants to face it. A mind like that doesn't run from problems. It's trained not to make them bigger than they are. And that, my friend, is true mental mastery. It's not about not caring about anything. It's about not letting anything control you without your permission. When you reach the point where your mind doesn't spiral over every little thing, that's when it truly starts to obey you. And if lately it feels like your head is dragging you around, reacting for you, making decisions in your place, then you need to follow our podcast. Because that's where you'll discover what no one else tells you. How to stop living under the rule of your thoughts and start thinking like someone who's finally awake. Lesson 9. If you want peace of mind, put order around you. Pause for a moment and look around. How many things are out of place? How many objects are still sitting there even though you no longer use them, staring at you from a corner as if they're just part of the scenery? It might seem insignificant, but every misplaced item acts like a small thief of your energy. Your environment isn't neutral. It affects your mental state more than you think. If you live surrounded by chaos, your mind absorbs it. And the worst part isn't just that it breathes it in. The real danger is that it starts adapting to it, normalizing it, functioning as if that disorder were the standard. Let me be clear. If you want to build a strong mind, you need space to move, to breathe. You can't focus if every time you walk into a room you have to step over clothes, tangled cables, or piles of paper. And I'm not talking about having a magazine-perfect home. I'm talking about having a space that doesn't sabotage you every time you seek peace. Because if your environment sends signals of noise, your mind receives them. And worse, it believes them. And at that point, you're no longer the one making decisions. It's your mind shouting, "We're overwhelmed." Sound familiar? You're looking for a pair of socks and find a drawer full of old clothes, candy wrappers, and a receipt from months ago. You sit down to work and in front of you are yesterday's coffee mug, 2 dirty dishes, and a mountain of papers you no longer remember the purpose of. You try to focus, but something's bothering you. You can't quite tell what. You just feel a general discomfort. And it's no coincidence that it's your mind asking you for order, direction, a breather. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Seneca said that clarity is born from simplicity. And he wasn't speaking abstractly. His own life was simple, without luxuries or unnecessary decoration, because he understood that a clear environment isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for the mind to function precisely, like a sculptor who needs a clean workspace to create. A good modern example of this is the creator Matt D'Avella. He did an experiment that at first glance seems trivial, but it's not. He recorded himself for a week responding to emails in 2 different environments. One with a clean desk, just his laptop and a cup of coffee. The other with scattered papers, pens everywhere, and a crooked lamp. The result? When in a messy space, he took twice as long. Not because he wrote worse, but because his mind was busy filtering the visual chaos. As if before focusing, it had to jump through invisible hoops. He summed it up like this: "When I tidy the space around me, it feels like my brain gets permission to start." And that's exactly it. It's not that order looks nice. It's that the brain needs to know there's no chaos outside in order to not activate chaos inside. So, what can you do? Start small. Identify the one spot you always leave for later. Maybe it's the kitchen counter, the cable mess, the bathroom shelf. You don't need to dedicate your whole weekend to it. Just take one action. Put away a mug, toss a paper, fold that shirt that's been lying around for days. A quick gesture. The goal isn't perfection, it's to send a clear message to your mind. We're taking back control. Then commit to just 2 minutes a day in that same spot. No more. But do it every day. That minimal consistency creates automatic order. Like a switch you turn on and off to bring yourself back to center. And finally, create a small, silent ritual. Every morning before checking your phone, Take a deep breath in front of that clean space and tell your mind, I can think here. It might seem symbolic, but your mind notices, and it responds differently. Because you can't expect your head to calm down if the place it lives in looks like a disaster zone. You can't meditate if your socks are yelling at you from the floor. Your environment speaks. Your environment shapes you. And if you use it in your favor, your mind will start to cooperate. It'll stop being a wild storm and become a finely tuned tool. In the end, my friend, this isn't about aesthetics, it's a mental strategy. True serenity doesn't come from emptiness, it comes from consciously chosen order. And it's up to you to decide whether your home is a battlefield or a quiet base for disciplined clarity. Lesson 10. Choose your peace, even if no one else does. Imagine for a moment that you're in the middle of a storm out at sea. The waves crash violently, the wind howls mercilessly, and every boat around you is rocking out of control. Some collide, others sink, trying to follow those heading straight into disaster. But you have an anchor. Even if it can't be seen, it's there. It's your ability to stay grounded. It's your choice to keep inner peace even as everything around you falls apart. Because yes, outside there may be noise. People shouting, judging, dragging others down with their overflowing energy. But you get to decide whether you throw yourself into the waves with them or stay grounded on solid land. And this is exactly where true courage comes in, not allowing your mind to be dragged by every emotional current. Epictetus said it best, "Be so firm that nothing shakes you and so flexible that nothing stops you." Choosing peace amid chaos is not about disconnecting from the world. It's about learning to govern yourself internally while everything outside runs wild. Picture this scene. You're at dinner with friends. Everything's fine until the conversation turns into a mix of gossip, complaints, and petty competitions. They offered me a higher salary than Laura. Did you see what Pedro posted on Instagram? Embarrassing. You, already drained from a long week, are just looking for a little serenity. Your mind is begging for a break. Sure, you could join in, make a bold comment, try to shine in the conversation, but you choose to soften. Not because you lack an opinion, but because you respect your mental peace. So you smile, shift the tone, and say something like, "So what are you doing this weekend to unwind?" And just like that, the mood lightens, the energy shifts. You didn't raise your voice, you didn't cause a scene, you made space. Because you're a Stoic in action, someone who's already learned how to direct their mind. And if you ever need a mental image to remind you of that, picture Marcus Aurelius at some modern-day after-work event, toga and all. Everyone's chatting about nonsense, laughing with a touch of cruelty, and there he is, calm, sipping sparkling water, saying, "I enjoy life, but not at the expense of others." You see him, composed, present, not buying into the circus. That's true mastery. That's real power. Because, my friend, once you learn to guide your mind, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Now let me ask you, do you know how to choose your peace when everyone around you is choosing noise? If the answer is no, here are a few tools. First, carry a personal mantra with you, like something tucked under your tongue. You don't have to say it aloud, just recall it internally. Peace. Always peace. It might sound simple, even childish, but your mind recognizes it as a password, and it starts responding. Second, have ready-to-use phrases for shutting down toxic conversations. If someone starts with negativity, you can reply with something like, "And has that made you feel any better?" It's not confrontation, it's reflection. It shifts the energy without needing to argue. And if none of that works, have a graceful exit ready. You're not obligated to stay out of courtesy. You can calmly say, "Today I'd rather just listen, not join in." And step away with a smile, because no one, absolutely no one, is going to protect your mind better than you. You might not be the life of the party, but you'll be the center of yourself. And that, my friend, is the only authority that truly matters if you want your mind to be your ally. Choose your peace, even if no one else does. It will undoubtedly be the wisest decision you make all day. Lesson 11. Your body also trains your mind. Have you ever stopped to notice how your mental state shifts when your body is exhausted? or how sometimes a simple walk is enough to regain focus. While many believe the mind works independently, the truth is, it can't rise if the body is anchored in fatigue. If you truly want to master your mind, you first need to build a strong physical foundation to support it. Because, my friend, your mind doesn't float in the air. It lives inside your body. And if that body is tired, inflamed, or out of balance, your mind simply won't have the resources to rise. Imagine this scene. You wake up late after a restless night. You rush through a coffee, skip breakfast, sprint to work, and spend the entire day sitting in front of a screen. And suddenly, without warning, boom, you explode. A coworker asks an innocent question and you react as if they attacked you. Was the problem them? No. It was your body, screaming for attention for hours, maybe even days. Your mind couldn't respond calmly. It was empty, drained, overloaded. And of course, if you don't fuel the engine, how do you expect the car to run smoothly? That outburst wasn't just emotional, it was physical, but no one teaches us to see it that way. Dr. Stacy Sims, a physiologist specializing in sports, explains this well. In her book, Roar, she describes how daily physical training transformed her mental clarity. She wasn't just gaining strength in her body, she was also gaining presence and focus. Every time she lifted a weight, she was also lifting her capacity to pay attention. That focus, built through physical effort, later helped her stay calm during tense conversations, hold her ground in tough meetings, and sort her priorities without getting overwhelmed. Because when you strengthen your body, you're also training discipline, and discipline is the foundation of true mental mastery. Seneca said it firmly, "While we struggle, we live." And he wasn't referring to fighting wars. He meant movement, staying present, not letting yourself collapse. Struggle can mean walking, stretching, taking a deep breath in the middle of chaos. Every physical act, no matter how small, sends a signal to your mind. We're here. We're not giving up. If you want to start forging a strong mind through your body, here are 3 simple steps to begin. 1. Choose a minimal routine. You don't need to join a gym or run 10 kilometers a day. It could be walking for 15 minutes, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or doing gentle stretches in the morning. Do it every day, no excuses. That consistency is the real training. 2. Create a physical signal. Every time you feel your mind spiraling, touch your wrist as if pressing a reset button. It's a simple gesture but highly effective. It reminds both your body and your mind that you can return to center. 3. Listen to your body. If you feel tense, stretch. If your back feels stiff, take some deep breaths. Make body scans a daily habit, like checking your home before leaving. Your body is always speaking to you. The problem is we rarely listen. Because in the end, if you want your mind to follow you, you have to care for the place it lives. You can't ask for strong thoughts if your foundation is fragile. And no, this isn't about aesthetics or appearance, and it's about control, personal sovereignty. It's about transforming your body into the first place where your mind feels safe. You've made it this far because you know you can't keep letting your mind operate on autopilot. Because deep down, you already sense that real change isn't external, it's internal. But there's still one final key. The simplest, and also the most powerful. Get ready, because what comes next might change everything. Lesson 12. Close the day before your eyelids do. Dear friend, there's something that isn't always visible at first glance but weighs more than you might think. A day that ends without ever really being closed. Because even if you get into bed, your mind stays awake, spinning in the dark, searching for solutions where there's nothing left to fix. It happened to me for months. I'd turn off the lights and the mental show would begin. Why did I respond like that in the meeting? What if I mess up tomorrow? Did I send that email correctly? And suddenly my body was still, but my head was at war. I barely slept 3 hours and would wake up feeling like I had run a mental marathon. And the hardest part wasn't the physical exhaustion. It was the helpless certainty that I was no longer in control, that my mind was operating like a runaway vehicle, no brakes in sight. Until one day, almost by accident, I came across a video by Michael Hyatt, the American productivity expert. He shared his small nighttime ritual. Before shutting down his computer, he would write just 3 lines in a notebook. That's it. 3 simple phrases. What I did well today. What I'll improve tomorrow. I'm letting this go until tomorrow, and he said that since he started doing this, he never again took work to bed with him. I gave it a try. Honestly, I didn't expect much. But that night, I slept better than I had in a long time. Not because the world changed, but because I finally told my mind, that's enough for today. And it responded, as if it had been waiting for my permission. Understood. It was like that small gesture gave my brain the signal it needed to let go, to rest. More than 2,000 years ago, Epictetus spoke of something very similar. He called it prosoche, mindful attention, not just during the day's tasks, but also when closing the day. He didn't have a phone or emails or endless meetings. But of course, he carried his own worries, and that's why at the end of each day, he would ask himself, where did I fall short? What did I learn? What do I need to release? Because those who don't stop to reflect repeat their mistakes. And those who don't release what they've lived carry double the weight. And honestly, I can't picture Epictetus in pajamas scrolling through cat videos on his phone until 2 a.m. I picture him sitting quietly by candlelight, taking a deep breath and telling himself, today I did what I could. Tomorrow is a new day. If you too are tired of having a mind that won't even let you sleep, start with something simple. Before going to bed, write 3 short sentences. What did you do well today? What would you like to improve? What are you choosing to release? That's all it takes to bring order to the chaos without getting stuck in it. Here's another small idea with a big impact. Thank the day. Mentally say thank you for what I experienced. You can go now. And if something's still pending, don't deny it or ignore it. Write it down and say, I'll return to this tomorrow. Don't erase it, just move it forward, and free yourself from the unnecessary weight of having to fix everything right now. Your rest isn't a reward for doing everything perfectly. It's a biological necessity. And if you don't respect it, your mind will demand it, forcefully. And you don't want to wake up already feeling late, already feeling like you're losing from the very first minute. So before your eyes close the day, close the cycle, put a period at the end of the day, even if there are things left undone. Because those who know how to pause also learn how to lead their internal world. When your mind understands that night is for recovery, not overthinking, it starts to trust you. And that, dear friend, is where true mastery begins. Freeing yourself from the grip of a runaway mind isn't something you accomplish in a single attempt. It's a daily practice, a constant training, an inner dialogue won through small decisions. Every time you choose to breathe instead of explode. Every time you choose to quiet the noise instead of feed it. When you take care of your body, your words, your environment, you're strengthening the most important muscle you have, your mind. And the more solid you are on the inside, the less you'll rely on external stability. Because true mastery isn't about suppression, it's about freedom. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, I hold the reins of my mind. That way, I'll know who the Stoic-souled warriors are who walked this journey with me. Don't forget to like the episode and subscribe so you won't miss everything that's still to come. Our purpose is to bring you the highest possible value. And if at any point you feel moved to support us so we can keep creating this content, you'll find ways to do so in the episode descriptions. It's designed to help you live with more wisdom, presence, and confidence. So, let's keep walking this path together. Until our next conversation, take care of yourself and keep embracing your inner Stoic with strength.